Anyone who's come to the wrong webinar, you think this is going to be about hairdressing or liposomal skin implant, you're on the wrong webinar. Go home. This one is about mystery illnesses around the world. A strange story of what's going on, EMFs, which we know are a major health hazard anyway, 5G mystery and beyond. That's what we're going to be talking about. And there's a lot of people, I know a spectacular number of people who have been excited by this prospect and have agreed to come and join us tonight. And there is a recording running, so we'll be able to show you the replay as well. Oh, okay. So somebody here is saying, are you muted before 7? No. So please, one other person. So Teresa appears to imply she can't hear us, but that could be your setup, Teresa. Look at it carefully, because nobody else is complaining they can't see and hear. Yaroslava, where are you? Where is Yaroslava? It doesn't say. I'm very curious, actually. Sounds maybe like Eastern Europe. Anyway, the numbers are going up and up and up, so I'm not going to try and keep track of those. I think it's time we got started. And let me introduce my two friends, dear friends. These, if I say usual suspect, we're missing one and replaced another, but nevertheless, they're going to introduce themselves in a minute. But I'm going to be working with John Hachet and Rob Van Bergen. Rob has a different surname because he's the son of a beautiful lady who we don't have with us tonight. She is usually a strong link, but us guys are going on our own without woman help. How scary is that, guys?
It's pretty scary.
I don't know. We're going to get lost.
Hopefully she's in the back there somewhere if she's needed. Come and pick up the pieces. Okay, all right. Lots of messages. Thank you, everybody that's taken the trouble to say yes, they can see what they can see and hear us. And individual problems, well, there's one thing you can always do if you can't get full-on sound and sight, is to close it down and then start again. I don't think you need to close your whole computer down, but maybe just closing down how you're your browser, how you're interacting with this, which for the rest of us, of course, is a PowerPoint presentation within a browser. Okay, well, this is a very nicely designed beginning slide that's going to tell us what we'll be doing. And I'll repeat what I just said about 5-10 minutes ago, which is important. If you've got questions, we're going to deal with them. I promise you, typically we spend up to an hour answering questions, even more one time. Answering questions. We answer all questions until we're just about exhausted and there are no more new ideas coming up. That's our commitment to you. But please don't try and interrupt us with questions or chat or things. You know, if you've got something comes to mind, if you want to type it in the box and submit it as a Q&A or in the chat box, that's fine. But I really don't want to be trying to field these questions. I'll just leave them all till the end anyway. Okay. Are we ready? You guys are ready?
We're ready.
Yes, sir.
Ready and waiting. Yes. Okay. Let's kick it off here. Oh, hang on. Didn't even get going there. Hang on. I'll use that little click arrow instead. So let's be clear. What we're going to be doing this webinar is really talking about EMF dangers, radiation dangers, and what we can do about it. I'll be honest, we're not going to do government conspiracies. You know, people have got as extreme as there is no virus, it's all EMF radiation, and they're trying to pretend it's a virus. We don't go along with that. There is enough evidence that viruses are out there and there's some problem. And people are dying of pneumonia. They are. I don't think that's being invented. The big problem I've got, which I'll introduce to you, is it's a handful of people on the whole planet. I mean, a pandemic's been declared. That means at least 100 million cases. And so far, it's nothing like that. It's about 100,000 worldwide. It just isn't adding up. So anyway, we're not, like I said, going to be doing the conspiracy theory. We're going to be doing the health, science, and facts story. And there is no question that electromagnetic frequencies, EMFs, are harming us. They'll harm our immune system, for sure. And so that's going to make us somewhat vulnerable to being infected with all kinds of things. Now, as I've said or hinted, this so-called outbreak, well, first of all, let's say who we are, then we'll come back to that rather contentious issue. Most of you, I think, know who I am because you're my subscribers that have been notified. But there will be some people, maybe you never met me or heard of me. I was a wacko doctor back in the 70s and even more wacko in the 80s. I was saying, you don't need drugs, you don't need that stuff. Trust Mother Nature. I had this completely ridiculous idea that if you do natural things, you'll get healing. I'm being ironic. Don't write to me, please. But that's what I found. My doctor, you see, the typical doctor has the view, you're not well, you're busted. There's something wrong with you. But don't worry, we can fix that with drugs. We'll patch over the cracks and you'll get by. Drugs for the rest of your life, but somehow you'll get by. My position, and doctors like me, basically are saying there's nothing wrong with a patient. It's external forces that are acting on that person, whether it's chemicals in the environment, whether it's electromagnetic radiation, whether it's food allergies, viruses and parasites. All these things are external to the person. Okay, so that's me. And in case you're asking, yes, I'm a real doctor. And I speak in public, I say such outrageous things. People sometimes say, are you a real doctor? I think, and I say, yeah, you can come and touch me afterwards, you know. And that's obviously not in the sense in which they mean it. Now, you've seen this picture before, a lot of you. Here, as I say, the usual suspects, Lorraine on the bottom left there isn't with us. She's here in spirit and she's nearby, but we're not going to be interviewing her. So we're going to talk to the guys, John Hachey. Tell us about yourself, John, and then Rob, tell us about yourself.
Oh, I'm a doctor of natural medicine. I have my PhD in integrative medicine. I've been around for maybe 35, 40 years. I haven't really calculated how long.
Been around for a long time.
Yeah. I'm trying not to,
turn to dust.
It does. And I've been involved in microcurrent for the last 20 years or so, as you know. A lot of people are probably aware of what we've been doing. And we are also very much involved in integrative medicine. We're looking at different causal factors that create diseases. Inflammation being one of them. Breakdown of your immune system is another. Yeah. So on and so forth. I think people are stressed out of their poor little minds, and this announcement of this pandemic is doing nothing less than stressing a lot of people.
It's adding to the problem, actually, isn't it? You know, it's not solving it. Everyone's stressed and frightened and running around panicking.
Buying toilet paper like it's going out of style.
Like we're never going to see another roll again, right?
Come on, Rob, tell us about yourself.
So I'm Rob. It's nice to meet everyone. I don't think many people here will be familiar with me. I'm John's son and Laurie's son. And I'm a holistic health practitioner. So I haven't really been doing this for as long as John. I'm definitely real skin. I'm not as much dust. I'm not being held together in a form.
I think Methuselah hasn't been doing it as long as John.
But for me, yeah, microcurrent has become my wheelhouse as well. But I've noticed over the last couple of years, I've been doing this really seriously, that there is a huge variety of different things we need to look at. There's so many causal factors, as you say. There's not a one-size-fits-all answer. And for me, it's always been sleuthing the mystery and trying to figure out what it is that is causing.
Now, you two be careful of using words that you're not defining. You said wheelhouse. Now, that's an American expression. The people all over the world, people in Hong Kong and Australia, what the hell's a wheelhouse? Come on, tell us. You're correct. It is your wheelhouse, but what's a wheelhouse?
So I suppose what I mean by that is that microcurrent is where I am most comfortable. That is my most familiar type of therapy. So when I'm applying different therapies to situations and trying to find answers, my go-to is microcurrent therapy, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about technology and the spin-off effects. Now, tonight it's not really about giving up technology, right? It's about protecting ourselves. We're entrenched too far. We like the lifestyle. we like the convenience, don't we? And, you know, it's pretty unrealistic to say, look, everybody, you need to drop your smartphone and your tablets in the trash can. Just don't use them. Life would come rapidly to a halt. So, we're keenly aware of dangers, aren't we? But we're not saying don't do it. We're saying there are answers, which we will get to. So we like technology, but what is it doing to us? You've hinted, you guys, either of you, a quick filler in.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? The technology that allows us to connect all across the world and do whatever we need to do our daily jobs, is the same thing that is causing damage to ourselves persistently.
But it need not do that.
No,
it's quite a simple fix, and we'll tell you about that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question that a lot of people have got on their mind now is 5G doing it? We don't all have 5G, but anyone who's, you know, not living on planet Zod or some distant corner of the solar system must be aware that where the virus seems to be the most intense and destructive are in places where 5G is in preponderance. It's rolled out, like Italy, Iran, China, and so on. And somebody, one of my subscribers, very kindly wrote in, by the way, and said, did I know that the Diamond Princess had wall-to-wall 5G? Well, I didn't know that. Most of the passengers and crew had fallen sick, and they had like 8 deaths on a ship. That's serious, you know, that's bad news. But they had it too. So, you know, this is one of the questions that's uppermost, I think, in people's minds, and we have to address it, guys. There's no question. I mean, we're not going as far as saying 5G is the real problem. There's no such thing as a virus. It's a hoax. But we're saying 5G is really pretty damaging, and no wonder if 2-bit viruses get a grip on us. I mean, we're going to talk about the coronavirus, right? Now, this is a picture of the actual virus. Corona means a crown. It's Latin for crown, and you can see it looks a bit like a crown, doesn't it? With all those bits sticking up on the top. Coronavirus is listed in medical textbooks as the cause of a common cold. It's not the cause of SARS or deadly flu. What's going on there? That's a bit odd. Now, I'm not saying therefore it's baloney, but maybe with weakened immune systems, something like this isn't able to get a grip on us. I mean, my question here, I've already hinted, and it's going to come up a few times, is why the hell is this a pandemic with just a few thousand cases? In the USA, we've got just about 1,000 cases now and just a minimal few hundred deaths. But the seasonal figure, now, and I'm talking about season, not the year, 2019, 2020, the winter of, that's our season. So far, there have been 20 to 40,000 flu deaths. These are official figures. Why is that not important, or it doesn't count? And this 2-bit virus thing is deadly, it's lethal, it's going to obliterate life on Earth as we know it. There's something wrong, isn't there? You can't, we just can't deny that. So, you know, could it be, like, as I said, some people think maybe it's just a cover-up for 5G damage. There is a virus. I don't think there's any question of that. But look, let's put this whole story into one picture. Look at this picture. This is in China, of course. You can tell by the lanterns. But doesn't this say it all? They're all running around, you know, protective masks. Why? It's one of the most polluted atmospheres in any city on Earth. It's appalling what they have to breathe. And they're all wandering around with phones, spraying themselves. Wuhan is probably ground zero for 5G, and they're having all the trouble. What? Is that a coincidence? We, as good scientists, don't believe in coincidences, do we, John? We know there's no such thing really as a coincidence. There's an unexplained fact, a mystery, which needs clearing up. So I think there we have the problem in one picture, really, in a sense. Anyway, let's back up and do our, you know, our personal experiences, shall we? This over to you, John. And this is the story of, you know, your professional life, is it?
Yeah, we've been in practice now for, my gosh, myself maybe almost 40 years. Here in this area, about 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
With Lori and I and yourself, who's joined our practice. And we started seeing, you know, normally in when you study medicine, you study all kinds of diseases that are now in textbooks, gathering dust in the back of our offices there somewhere. we don't see those anymore. We're seeing these new things start to appear. And so the people were starting to come to see us with these mysterious, debilitating autoimmune style symptoms. And autoimmune disease. And autoimmune disease, we wrote a paper on it. Actually, there's a commonality between autoimmune disease and its inflammation and involvement of the immune response, the immune system.
Yeah, the immune system is going to be, it's really key to this conversation, right?
It really is.
It's your killer defense system. I mean, there are lots of defense systems, the liver detox, skin respiration and excretion, but immune system is no question is the killer. And that we saw that with AIDS, didn't we? I mean, that's why AIDS kills people. They aged like 50 years in, a couple of years and then died. That's what happens when you don't have an immune system.
Yeah.
Now, just let me throw in my 10-penneth can. Because I go back a ways with this. I used to do food allergies, environmental chemicals. Back in the 80s, one or two of us, and I started noticing that people were getting sick in strange ways. And early on, I was getting reports that patients, they'd switch on some device, like just say the TV. They'd switch the TV on and feel crap. And I used to just joke, it serves you right. You watch some better programs, You're going to feel ill if you watch American TV, that's for sure. But my first explanation, and I wrote about it at the time, and I was being interviewed on TV and so on, was I think it's chemicals being ex-gassed from the hot wires, the plastic and insulations and things around the back of the TV were giving off chemicals, and these people were falling, so, super sensitive people. It took about 2 or 3 years for the penny to drop. It was actually the electromagnetic fields surrounding these devices. And remember, in those days, TV was cathode ray, so it was spraying X-rays and God knows what everywhere. It was, a really scary issue. So I was sort of spotting. Anyway, back to you guys. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt much, but it has been an interesting pathway, hasn't it? So these are the symptoms that you were noticing, you were picking up on, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, chronic pain, right? I mean, that's number one. We see that more than anything else. And sometimes we have a quick fix for it, and other times not so much. And that's sort of when we tend to look at it a little deeper, right, John?
Yeah, the ones that came in the most often were like insomnia, sleep disturbance. People,
right.
Their major complaint: can't sleep at night, can't repair.
Yeah.
The other one was headache.
Well, John, just picture the bedroom in those days. Well, these days, I mean, it had a tea maker and it had an automatic radio that came on and woke you up. There was a television at the foot of the bed, so you could watch the TV program and fall asleep with the TV still spraying you with stuff. I mean, it was a deadly trap, actually. The bedroom was one of the worst places in the house.
Yeah, not conducive to sleep.
No,
not at all. The other symptom they came in with was actually ringing in the ears, or tinnitus.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the general fatigue. Everybody seemed to be a tired old country. And I said, oh my God, we got to go to find some country in the world where people are a little bit experiencing some form of bliss, because they weren't doing it out here. Cognitive disturbance as well.
Concentration problems, memory issues.
Irritability, but stress was the major. Stress was always the major.
Now, there's a funny one we didn't put on this list, but I noticed it. I wrote about it in my book. The original one you read, John, Virtual Medicine, and then it's Big Brother, Medicine Beyond. And that was people were hearing buzzing noises from the teeth and jaw. I mean, they often got the tinnitus. But what was happening is the metal in their teeth were acting like miniature radios. Crystal radio. All you need is a little crystal and a wire, and you can a set of headphones, and you can hear stuff.
You get free broadcast.
And that was actually happening with metal in the teeth. Weird, but anyway, true. Yeah. All right. Sorry. Back to you guys.
Yeah. I mean, and that sort of comes down to it, right? It's like, well, you get all these symptoms, and what do we do, right? Because our traditional approach used to work, or it did work for a lot of people, but there were always people that were not being able to get rid of their symptoms, or they weren't going away completely, right? And that sort of brings, as people that like to sleuth and find out what's the root of a problem, we're always hunting.
And the medical field, their solution was to medicate until the pain went away or the disturbances went away, and when they got sick, from their medication, then they'd end up coming to see us.
Yeah.
So our job was really trying to find the causal factors behind everything that was going on.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you can imagine if somebody's pain is caused by cell phone towers, they're going to end up on painkillers the rest of their life. It isn't going to go away, is it? Tell us about this girl. I mentioned her in one of the emails I sent out.
Yeah, you go ahead and explain that one, because you know her well.
Yeah. So Anne was a patient of ours, and she had a diagnosis of arthritis, and it was specifically rheumatoid arthritis, which is the autoimmune version of this, right?
Yeah.
And she came in, and we got her to enroll in our protocol, start doing all of the things that we usually do. You know, we got to have good nutrition, exercise, sleep, right? All these things contribute. Everyone knows that.
Stress control.
And stress control. As well as trying her on microcurrent. And I mean, it didn't seem to make a difference. She kept coming back week after week with issues that when we were not touching whatsoever, right? It was actually only when she went on vacation that she noticed.
Let's bring that one up. So nothing helped, and then
yeah, exactly.
She went to New Zealand.
Yeah, the beautiful land of sheep and rolling fields, and a distinct lack of Wi-Fi and constant exposure to EMFs, right? And she noticed after just a couple of days there that her swelling actually had started to reduce, and she wasn't as stiff, and she was feeling significantly better. She even had more energy. So, of course, we thought, well, what could be the cause of this? Well, maybe her stress levels have finally tanked down because she's no longer she's on vacation, right? I mean, that's the goal of vacation. We relax. But then she came back to the US, and a couple days later, her pain was back.
Everything came back.
Everything came back. So it was the swelling was back, and she was absolutely devastated. And I remember her not knowing why. And we were like, well, what is it? Right? What is the actual thing that is triggering this?
And this is likely.
and this is it, right? She lived in an apartment in New York on the upper levels.
And banks, so smart meters and
right. Smart meters, Wi-Fi, all of these.
And
things.
They put the towers on top of these skyscrapers, don't they, to get good coverage?
Yeah, they do. And so it came down to that. It was like, well, maybe this is the problem, right? So we sort of started to work with it from that angle. And we're going to explore this EMF angle a little bit here, and then we will get back to Anne's story and tell you how that ended up.
Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going. Yes, electromagnetic. Well, EMF is electromagnetic frequencies, but they are fields, of course. They're electrical or electromagnetic fields.
Yeah.
So we've been working. What we call now Schumann waves that came along a lot later than our beginning on this planet. We've been walking on this planet for many thousands of years, and everything from the ionosphere down to the Earth was putting out these fields, electromagnetic fields, that we find later on were somewhere in the range of 7 to 12 hertz.
Yeah.
So the 7 to 12 hertz, now known as alpha, also permit us to be able to digest our food. Actually, our bone growth is related to 7 hertz as well. And also this relaxation, this being able to repair, to be able to relax, is all related to 7 to 12 hertz in that field.
And it's right in there, and the 8 hertz there.
Well, I put it in as 8 hertz. Typically, 7.8 is the figure usually quoted, isn't it?
Yeah.
But around those frequencies, that's what the Earth is doing all the time, and we grew up with that through millions of years, so it shouldn't have bothered us, and it doesn't.
It doesn't. It actually, we actually rely on this range of frequency, and people are used to earthing and putting their feet in the earth and finding that their whole physiology changes. They get less stress, and blood pressure normalizes, blood sugar normalizes.
Yeah.
All of these things happen when you go back into what we call a parasympathetic state. Parasympathetic state simply means eat, sleep, digest, assimilate, and repair.
Right. Now, the important thing is these are radiation frequencies, the Schumann waves, but it's friendly to us.
Exactly.
And 2G, 3G, 4G, and especially 5G are not friendly. They're way outside that frequency.
Yeah.
What's a gigahertz? come on, the gigahertz.
Gigahertz is it's like the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire, right?
Oh yeah, okay.
Like a billionaire. And a gigahertz.
Yeah, I want to get giga rich then. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, a cell phone is millions of times higher than a Schumann resonance, and 5G is billions of times stronger than the Schumann resonance.
Right. And it's very penetrating and destructive when it's high frequency, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the long, slow waves like radio waves aren't so bad, but the ones that go very fast like that, those are very hurtful. Yeah, that was a poor demonstration. Anyway, yeah. So this, in a way, this slide sums it up.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? In the end, you know, it may not be immediate, but over time, we start to get saturated with these
excuse me,
and they clog our cells up. And unfortunately, we can't escape them. I know there's people used to try and almost run away to different parts of the world to avoid them, but
not anymore.
It's really hard now. They're everywhere. And I mean, we could decline everything we had, like they're trying to throw at us, smart meters and all these things. But our neighbor on that side, he's got a smart meter. The neighbor on that side's got a smart meter too. They're not.
Yeah, your mother was standing at the door,
blocking them off, right?
And the guys would come in. They sent bigger and bigger fellows to try to convince your mom that they needed to install a smart meter. Yeah. Over my dead body, get the hell out.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, you look to the left, and they've got one being installed. And I mean,
there are only 2 people on this whole area that actually have smart meters, and that don't have smart meters, and we're one of them.
Yeah.
But our neighbors have them.
Yeah.
So
and this is it, right? And not only smart meters, but you know, we have cell phones, we have computers, everything, right? All of these.
Okay, well, let's move on a little bit, because I think people know roughly where the exposures are coming from.
Right.
But this phenomenon of electrical, environmental and electrical sensitivity, hypersensitivity, meaning people who react at levels that wouldn't bother others. Now, this is recognized worldwide. The only place that won't recognize it is North America. They just try and block it out. No, you can't sue. There's no such thing there. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's about the dollars protecting their business interests. And I refuse to believe they don't fully understand what's going on. They're just covering it up because they know that once they admit that it can happen, that will open the door to a lot of lawsuits. Okay, what does it mean to our bodies? What the bits and pieces? What's going to happen to us if we don't do something?
We're going to break apart.
Well, what happens is that the photo repair system of the DNA, like DNA has to repair itself continuously. You can damage DNA to 95% or more, and within 24 hours, it needs to repair, and it will, unless there's a block in the photo repair system.
Yeah.
And that blockage is not something hanging off your DNA. It's actually an electromagnetic field.
Yeah.
Because there are videos everywhere, aren't there, showing this effect and chromosomes being shattered and so on. There is no doubt scientifically. There are a few Dr. Shills that try and take the official corporate line that there's no problem, it doesn't do anything. But every intelligent scientist knows that it actually does, basically. Yeah. So we are carrying around a potent source of damage and destruction and danger in our pockets. But there's research, though, isn't it? I mean, we know there's research, and it's been furiously suppressed or twisted. One of the worst offenders is T-Mobile, the German company. They're very naughty at manipulating the truth. Anyway, the few papers here you found, Rob, there's hundreds, but, we just...
Yeah, these are a few select papers showing essentially all of them showed increased risk of neuromas, gliomas, and, a slew of other symptoms as well. But there's way too many to post here. But you're right, they get suppressed. They don't really make it into the mainstream. And when they do, they get debunked by someone.
Yeah, some shill will get up and say, this is a weak methodology. I mean, there's nothing crappier and weaker methodology than what Big Pharma tries to saddle us with. But, careful scientists are doing their work carefully and saying there is a problem. they're often trashed or even lose their jobs, you know, so it's a bummer. And acoustic, well, I think most people have heard glioma. That's what killed, what's his name, Kennedy, Dan Kennedy. But acoustic neuroma, it means a growth, a tumor swelling on the auditory nerve. And that's no surprise. If you're holding your cell phone here, you're irradiating your ear and all the nerves that supply it, I guess. Yeah. Okay, moving on. There's a lot to get through, folks. Let's...
Yeah, these are the other side effects reported from the research, so we don't have to linger too long on that, but you can see the damage again. DNA damage comes up again. Cellular repair is slowed down. A rising cortisol levels, so your stress goes up. Of course, when stress goes up, immune system goes down, right?
Oh, automatic. Yeah.
Toxins passing the blood-brain barrier, thyroid issues, that's huge. With
that is, and it was found in every study that was done. And most people were looking for gliomas or brain tumors, when in reality, every one of the 3 to 4G were actually damaging thyroid.
Yeah.
Right. Now, you've read my book, Medicine Beyond, and its predecessor. I made it very clear that, you know, real holistic expert, you know, killer investigators that are good with electroacupuncture, for example, EAV, Vols system, time and time again, we'd find an association between thyroid disorder and cancer. Just over and over and over. It seems almost in a way that thyroid dysfunction precedes cancer. And it's a strong marker for the fact that a person is heading for, you know, big trouble in the form of a tumor. Yeah. So anyway, we so far that whole talk could have been 5 years ago before there was 5G. Yeah. Now you throw 5G in the kitty, and my goodness, it's
it's everywhere, right? And I mean, yeah, everything that was done before 5G can only be worse with 5G. It's not going to have gotten better. Right. And we're already starting to sort of see the rollout of 5G all over, right?
I don't think we're going to stop it, you know. I think, you know, signing petitions and writing to your the nearby politicians or street marches. I think the agenda's already been settled and public opinion is going to be suppressed. But you know what pees me off quite a bit? There's a lot of loonies out there that want this. They don't see the danger. They're not listening to the danger. They want faster gaming and faster videos and more connectivity.
Oh, yeah.
And they're actually clamoring for it. So, you know, those of us who are being cautious and saying, hang on a minute, you know, we're being swamped by lots of geeky, especially young folks. They don't care. I'm young. I'm going to live forever. You know, everyone thinks they're going to live forever when they're in their 20s.
Oh, yeah.
I used to think that.
I saw a guy.
Well, that's when you were in your 20s. That's what I'm saying.
I saw a guy walking down the street yesterday, walking his dog. In one hand, he had a cell phone. He was watching a Netflix show while walking his dog through the street and down the park. So he has high powered streaming on his phone, just walking around, walking his dog.
That poor dog should have bit him.
Well said. Okay, come on. Anyone has access to this, Matt. But what's interesting, this is what 5G, where it's been rolled out somewhat, field trials anyway. Look at Africa. No, and there's no, there isn't any coronavirus to speak of in Africa. Is that why? Because Central America. Because there isn't any 5G. Is it as simple as that, guys? Could be, couldn't it?
Well, there's what complicates it all. If we look at, let's be real for a minute. And I know that they have broadcast how many deaths, and they're saying, well, there's a 3% average of those who get coronavirus that die.
Right.
But every one of the deaths so far have been 80 years old and older.
Well, it's a bit of a generalization, but let's say they're previously debilitated people.
Right.
I was reading one today, a guy from China, from Wuhan, they were finally doing an autopsy on his corpse. And the guy had liver disease for years. Another guy had fragments of heart muscles circulating in his blood. He'd obviously had a severe heart attack at some stage. He was in big trouble and probably on the point of dying. And then, he gets the coronavirus and dies. What's the real cause? Well,
I mean, regardless of how you look at it, right? Immunity is going to play a role here. And this 5G is going to drop your immunity.
To drop your immunity, it's going to build your cortisol because of the constant stress that it provides. And I just want to, I'll just give you a little idea on this pituitary thyroid issue, for example. The results were obtained with an exposure of 30 minutes per day. Now, 30 minutes per day, I don't know if you use Wi-Fi more than 30 minutes a day, on a 5-day week at 900 megahertz.
Okay.
Okay, now that's the millionaire instead of the billionaire, right?
Yeah.
5G would bombard people 24/7 at a much higher range of frequency. We're talking about 24 to 86 gigahertz. That's
Yeah. And I mean, the big worry is you're walking down the street, you're sprayed. It's no good saying, well, I'll leave my, I do. I say, I'll leave my phone at home. I'm not going to take any calls for the next hour. So why carry around this beast? But it won't do any good now. You're driving past all these sources. So anyway, look at this, Scientific American. I won't say it's the highest authority on the land, but it's a well-respected journal and says we have absolutely no reason to believe 5G is safe. And that was October 2019, by the way. It's less than 6 months ago.
Yeah.
No, just about 6 months ago. All right, so we were talking about the impact on the immune system. Back to you. Clinicians, go for it.
Well, I
think we more or less said this anyway, haven't we? So
yeah, we've pretty much already said this, but I mean that's it, right? The stress on your body.
Well, one thing about stress in your body, for example, and this is a Bruce Lipton story where he says, "You're running from a bear.
Yeah.
You have diarrhea. Does your body stop to repair the diarrhea, or does it just keep running and hoping to survive? We'll fix the diarrhea after we stop running, right?
Right.
Right. Now, what it really means is that if you are stressed, the body does not repair.
Yeah.
You will not repair during stressful periods.
And what do you think 5G is doing?
If it's stressing you, then you are not repairing. You are going to break down over time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're already immune challenged, then it's a perfect recipe.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I'll just give another example. I've been reading a lot of stuff lately, but we have a lot of cases and deaths in King County, is it? Anyway, Washington. Yeah. 26 deaths. What they haven't said, and you'll never read, is that all but 4 of those cases are in an elderly patient's care facility.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've said it's a bit brutal to say it, but every year there's kind of an annual flu cull. It's kind of a cull. Mother Nature comes along and takes out the weaklings. It sounds brutal, but it's very difficult to stop her. That's her plan. And, who are we to interfere? Well, we do our best, but I mean, you can't. If a person's elderly and their systems are shutting down, they can't defend themselves from it. Because make no mistake, flu is an extremely severe illness. If you get real flu, you're not going to be over it in 4 or 5 days or a week. It's 3 weeks of shuffling around, hardly able to walk, can't lift your head off the pillow. It's a terrible disease. And there, I've got something to say, guys. Listen, I went off to the library and I thought, let's just check this out. So I got the famous Merck manual. And look, this is the entry. If you see it in the middle there, for coronaviruses, these are listed as the cause of common cold, not flu. They're not supposed to be, or SARS or influenza or anything like those. Coronaviruses, along with rhinoviruses, those are what cause your common cold. And yet we're being sold this as a monster beast that's going to wipe out 2/3 of mankind. I don't think so. Oh, I've made a mistake. This is my fault. I've lost some writing on the right. So I do apologize. We might not need it, and I don't want to pull out. That's my edit. Sorry, folks. Tell us what...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is I'd say it's a common misconception, but I think it's becoming less and less so that people think that the government, the law is going to protect us. It's on our side. But that's not really true. In this case, we've seen countless places try to block 5G unsuccessfully. And in fact, one thing I like to quote is this Telecommunications Act of 1996 that states that regardless of environmental or health effects, state or local government cannot regulate the placement of any cell towers.
So right, they're protected. So even if everybody knows the story, you can't attack these people. It's a bit like the virus thing, isn't it? You
Yeah.
know, Ronald Reagan, bless his socks, brought in this law that nobody can sue the vaccine manufacturing companies, no matter how many kids they kill, no matter how negligent they are with standards of manufacture. You know, where there's poison and cancer cells and all those things in it, you still can't sue them.
Yeah.
Thanks to Ronald Reagan. Okay, so did we say no health studies? I don't know if we did or not, actually. The big health study is now. We're it. You know, they're seeing what happens to us, and the story will be modified from there. Anyway, like I said, it's no good just pointing out the problem. Let's fix it. There are solutions. By the way, guys, I noticed back in the 80s, you know, a strong association between food allergies and this electrical hypersensitivity. If the person went on an exclusion diet, their electrical sensitivity often improved dramatically. That might be some of what happened to that girl, Anne. She went and ate differently in New Zealand.
Right.
But, you know, obviously she's still got the underlying sensitivity. But, you know, if you eat crappy food and spray yourself with electromagnetic radiation, you're going to get sick. You've got a choice, either screening yourself from the electromagnetic radiation and giving up your cell phone, or eat differently. So all of these, they're all factors, you know, like a number of factors that come at you at once. Yeah?
Yeah.
So what we're looking now for is, how can we protect ourselves without going back to the Stone Age? We don't want to do that, do we?
No, and I mean, we mentioned this earlier as well. Like, even if we completely go wireless here, it doesn't mean our neighbors are going to. It doesn't mean that they're not going to put up 5G things all along the street poles, because that's what I've heard about. That is that they need to be essentially on every lamppost, because they need to be so close together.
Yeah, about 100 meters at the most.
Yeah.
Because it's not, you know, it doesn't travel far. It's intense and destructive, but doesn't travel that far. So they're blanket, you know, carpet bombing the whole area with devices and transmitters. Yeah. It's terrible. Yeah.
And this is it, right? We had to figure out how do we protect ourselves from this stuff without giving up our ability to connect with the world. Because we could have just set ourselves off in a Faraday cage and completely ignored everything, right?
But even Faraday cages will block the EMFs that are healthy for us.
Yeah.
You have to remember that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now, not everyone, I think, would know a Faraday cage. It means living in a metal cage to screen out the electromagnetic field.
Well, it's like Sesame Street, the guy that lives in the garbage can. He lives in a Faraday cage.
I'm starting to cough again. All right, let me just cut in again with something I say repeatedly in these webinars, guys. You're very welcome to ask questions and use the chat box too to ask questions. If you hover down the bottom of your screen, you'll see you're offered the Q&A. Maybe you have to go to the right you find 3 dots, and if you hover on that, you'll see chat come up. But we're not going to interrupt the story for this. You know, we're going to keep going, and we won't be, you know, maybe another 20 minutes, and then we'll switch over to questions. So we will deal with all questions. We want to. It's our resolve, but I don't want to interrupt the flow of things. Okay. All right. So let's introduce what we found. Well, John and Laurie found it first and told me, and that's a device called the Floww with a W. 2 W's.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of funny things out there. I mean, like sticking funny little stamps on the back of your phone. I have a very good and, in fact, best friend of mine is on this webinar in the audience. And he sells a device which is just such a thing, but he was able to show with a meter that it does make a difference. But there's an awful lot of fluff. And I mean, for goodness sake, don't go to eBay and Amazon. Nobody's responsible for quality control, integrity, telling the truth. And, you know, all of that, it's all a problem. But anyway, let's talk about this company, Floww. You found it. How did you come across this, John?
Well, the idea for me, I said, I found like Olivia, my daughter, was wandering about at night, and I kind of pinned it down to electromagnetic fields, and I was worried. And I said, you know what, I said to Lori the next morning, I said, you know what we need? We need an antenna on the roof of our house that would gather all these EMFs, and then we can transfer them into something useful, for Pete's sake, you know.
Stealing electrons and energy from the environment. Yeah, right. It's an idea, isn't it?
I get a call from this company from the Netherlands who were referred to us by a company that was actually manufacturing Skinar, in the Netherlands at the time.
Scanar, the Russian microcurrent therapy device, folks.
Yeah.
Scanar, as it was, what I used to call, I still do, I call it Star Trek medicine, a little handheld something that'll fix anything from broken legs to a heart attack, cardiac arrest. And anyway, so we're down to this guy. This is...
So actually, Jim Wagner, I think he was around in the 1960s, somewhere around there.
Oh, it looks like he was around in the 1920s.
Yeah, he was been around for a long time. And one of the things that Jim had discovered, he was looking at plants, he was looking at bees, he was looking at just about everything agricultural, and he made the correlation between electromagnetic fields at that time and poor agricultural growth or production.
Right.
So he was looking for a way to be able to disarm these electromagnetic fields, and he knew at the time. He said it's actually affecting our bee population, and that is devastating.
God, he was years ahead then.
Oh yeah,
absolutely years ahead. Yeah, oh, good old Jim.
There's another fellow, another player that came along, and Mark Schechtel. Mark was I believe he was an accountant, and he's a PhD in accounting, and he would go into his building and he would get all the symptoms of electromagnetic hypersensitivity.
Right.
Like brain fog, and he couldn't operate, and he needed to be able to use his brain, and he would get so fatigued as soon as he opened his laptop or even entered the building, it was crazy.
Shut him down.
Mm-hmm. So what he did, he said, listen, he said to his boss, he said, I'm going to take my laptop and everything, I'm going into the forest.
How did you get Wi-Fi there?
Yeah, at that time, he said, hey, this is where he met Jim, and Jim offered him this piece of technology, and he said, try this.
Now, it worked.
And the funny thing is that Mark, actually, his wife was a gynecologist, and she still is. And he convinced his wife to join him in this tent in the forest because he couldn't operate in the city. So when he met Jim Wagner, and he said, I don't sell these. He said, but try this and tell me how you feel. Well, all of the symptoms disappeared.
So he was able to move back in the house, make love to his wife like any normal man.
That's made a happy wife.
All right, okay. All right, so how does it work? I mean, the key thing, isn't it? Instead of trying to block things and trying to hold things out, that's almost impossible to hold out. It's saying, hang on a minute, let's change it into something that's not as destructive, which has always made sense to me, actually.
Well, they knew at the time. They said, listen, we've gone too far. We can't go back. We need to be able to transform, to grab these frequencies and make them somehow into something that's useful for living, for biological models walking around on this planet, because the way we're going, we're and we knew it. We knew it as well, because I knew pertinently well that there was not a single e-tech company that actually had a medical doctor on the payroll.
Oh yeah, no.
They didn't want to. They really didn't. So what they came out with was a piece of technology that actually, it's what we call passive electronics. And if you took an induction coil and you add a device that actually collects electricity, and you use the case as an antenna, you can actually transform the frequencies into something useful.
Right.
Now, you used the word there, induction. A lot of people are, we're into health, we're into love, and we're into woo. We may not know what induction means. It means there's some electrical business going on nearby. Will make something else spark up with this similar or a copycat electrical energy. Like if you play the fiddle near a piano, the piano strings will begin to hum. It's a vibrational thing, isn't it? And so it does it the same with electricity. Yeah. All right. Now the big question is, does this work? Can we do this? Is this baloney, or does it work? And I'm going to show you guys a video And unfortunately, I'm going to have to stop my screen share to change the sound. At the moment, you can see I'm using my headphones, the headset. I need to use the computer audio, otherwise you won't get it. So there's going to be a slight, hiccup, fallout. I mean, it's smooth enough, but we're disturbing the flow, shall we say, while I do this. So let me come out of the slideshow. And then go to I'm going to be showing, this is just a symbol to say, sitting here is a nice video. And then I'm going to go back to screen. Oh, hang on, I've got to stop share. Let's do that. Right, there we go. So I'm going back there, the usual suspects there. And I'm going to share computer sound and optimize and share. So now we should, folks that have taken the trouble to chat me, just let me know in the first 30 seconds or so you can actually hear as well as...
You are watching video images from the private files of Anna von Wersch, professor of psychology at Teesside University in Middlesbrough. These were made during an experiment that was performed on Anna and her husband in preparation for a replica investigation into the effects of flow.
Sorry, I screwed that up, didn't I?
Oh, it was working well.
It was working for us. On video.
But it wasn't full screen, was it?
You are watching video images from the private files of Anna von Wersch, professor of psychology at Teesside University in Middlesbrough. These were made during an experiment that was performed on Anna and her husband in preparation for a replica investigation into the effects of flow. Anna von Wersch is a specialist in health-related psychology. One of her specific areas of interest is that of complementary medicine. And one of her published books is entitled Complementary Medicine and Health Psychology. She's a respected authority in her field, and so Flow International approached her with a request to perform a series of investigations, one of which was to repeat the study done by Sangitama Hubner of the Humaniversity. Here, a dark field microscope was used to observe the movement of red blood cells exposed to the radiation emitted by a mobile telephone. The replica experiment repeats this procedure, but this time using a minutely small microscope, the cytocam, a device about the size of a ballpoint pen. The tip of this is pressed against the skin, close to the ear, and allows the movement of living blood cells within the body to be viewed on a computer screen. The dark field microscope is effectively a primitive version of the cytocam, where a blood sample first has to be taken from the subject and can only then be observed under the microscope. Professor von Wersch submitted both her own blood and that of her husband, Bert Jan, to be tested in this manner by Mrs. Hubner. 3 different sets of observations were performed, and Bert Jan was the first subject. Firstly, the zero-line test, made after he had not eaten or drunk anything for several hours. A drop of blood was taken and viewed using the dark field microscope. The red blood cells here look perfectly normal. The second observation took place after Bert Jan had been holding an iPhone in his left hand for 5 minutes. The phone was on, with no active connection to another phone. The blood sample made here reveals a clustering of red blood cells that resembles a stack of coins, also known as rouleau formation. Before the third observation, Bert Jan held an iPhone in his hand for 5 minutes, now actively connected. But this phone was also fitted with a mobile flow device. The red blood cells are moving here with a good, free motion. In fact, they appear healthier than those of the zero-line test. Bert Jan has worked in the pharmaceutical industry and is not a man to be easily convinced, but these results far exceeded his expectations. Anna's blood, when tested after using an iPhone without a mobile flow, revealed a less negative image than that of her husband. Although this didn't surprise her, because she'd been carrying a personal flow constantly for several months for the reason of pure scientific curiosity. She is surprised, however, by the attitude of other researchers who reject flow simply because it has not been scientifically proved. So, she says, if we scientists don't get ourselves involved with this, then who is going to prove if it works or not?
Yeah, good Good point. Logical. Now, again, I'm going to stop the share and go back to the slideshow. Oh, well, I'm on the slideshow anyway, aren't I? But anyway, let me share again. And this time I will use my headset. And again, sweet folks in the distance there, if you can make it clear for me that all is working, all is good, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Craig has raised his. Craig, if it's to ask a question, I'm not going to do it, but if it's to say yes, thank you. Thank you very kindly. No.
Your slides aren't showing up though, Keith. There's a black screen.
No, I haven't got there yet.
Okay, just check.
It's the next slide. That's now gone blank. That was the video, remember? Okay, so here's one. Oh, look, I've screwed up again with the edge here. See the text? There's enough text to make it out. This was a very quick last-minute edit, folks.
Yeah, and this is really just, that's what the inside of a personal flow. I have my personal flow here. It's the one that Anna was carrying for months.
Yeah.
That's the inside of a personal flow. So you can see all the little components in there if you were to rip the case off, which we don't recommend.
But that's the end of the guarantee if you do.
Yeah, exactly. And this is just sort of, it talks a bit about how, because there is the relationship between the electromagnetic fields and the environment, the more electromagnetic fields you're exposed to, the more potent the flow field is that's created. So your body ends up having more positive experiences as a result of this increase in wireless waves and EMFs.
I have to I have to because I know people are wondering, they're saying, if it's that powerful, then it'll interfere with my Wi-Fi, or it'll interfere with my cell phone reception. In principle, if you were standing barefoot outside on the lawn, you'll be getting what we call earthing or grounding experience, where you're picking up electrons from the earth.
Yeah.
If you were talking while you're doing that, you're talking on your cell phone, that would not interfere with your cell phone reception whatsoever. But the electrons, which are in the 7 to 12 hertz range, would actually put you in a parasympathetic state. So the stronger the field, the more parasympathetic you would be, even if you're using your cell phone.
I suppose it's all summed up in this last line, isn't it? The stronger the dangerous radiation, the stronger the protection radiation, the counter radiation, as it were. All good, great, terrific system, but what happened?
Yeah, so back in 2016, Floww was huge in Europe, and it had naturopathic doctors all over the place who were prescribing these devices to their patients. And of course, this was going great for Floww. Floww was happy, everything was looking well. But the telecom companies started, they didn't really like that. So there was a bunch of media coverage, I believe, and a lot of, what would you call it? Disparaging.
Well, you know, those
trashing his reputation would be something we all understand. Yeah. They just trashed their reputation. They lied. They brought shill scientists, as they do. People lost confidence in the product, stopped buying it, and the company was more or less forced out of business.
Yeah, and they sort of moved and reopened. It was a couple of months later. It wasn't all that long later, because this happened towards the end of 2016, and then early 2017 he was able to reopen.
Right, but they're pretty well under the radar now.
Yeah, they definitely
to a degree anyway. So listen, this is a slide I've added without telling Rob and John, but in a way this is a warning, right? Because obviously telecom companies do not want you to be safe. No, not that I think they intend to hurt you, but you know, any implication that there might be some problem with this technology is fought tooth and nail. So if you have crappy migraines and then you pick up one of these devices that will shield you from cell phones and there are no more migraines, what message is that putting out? That the telecoms are hurting you and they don't want that. So they'd rather people stayed sick than anybody raised the question. So just remember, I mean, they got put out of business and they may be put out of business again someday. So, you know, if you like getting one of these type devices, Do it quick. Yeah, because here's another story. This is suppression in Canada, right? I didn't know this till John and Rob. John and Rob, by the way, are speaking to us from Vancouver Island in Canada, if you don't already know that. So they're very well aware of the Canadian scene. What happened here, guys?
Well, I happen to have one of my clients that came to see me had some serious problems. Actually, he had a cancer that was developing. And I told him about, he was working electromagnetic, in heavy electromagnetic fields. He owned one of the biggest distribution of cell phones, and they were building towers, Wi-Fi systems, and they were the biggest in Canada. And when he heard about the Floww, through me, of course, he said, we need to sign a partnership.
Yeah.
So we started a company, and he bought immediately $50,000 worth of Floww to be able to protect his employees.
Yeah.
And within a short period of time, he called me back. He said, John, he said, we're going to have to dissolve the company. And I said, why? He said, you were so gung-ho. He said, the problem is this. He said, I mentioned it to the company that we distribute. I don't know if there's Motorola, one of these companies. And immediately I got a call from a lawyer saying jurisprudence. And he said, what do you mean? He said, well, what happens is if you start using this technology saying that we are now going to protect you, it means that up to this period in time, we were damaging you.
Yep.
And it opens us to be totally pursued by everybody.
Well, and it's got to be the same with 5G too. If they research 5G and actually look at it and say this is damaging people, then what's to say 4G isn't? Because the difference is just strength.
Well, 4G was found to damage thyroid.
Well, and exactly.
Yeah.
You know, but they're admitting culpability.
But they're never, Rob, they're never going to investigate 5G because they know it's dangerous. They know they can't fudge it anymore. So then the reason they've never done safety tests is they know it couldn't possibly pass with even maximum fudging. They couldn't get it through. So they're just taking the other tack and saying, to hell with it, let's not study it at all. We just force it on the people. That's the truth, isn't it, basically?
The senator or governor of Delaware, for example, she said, I welcome 5G with open arms. And one of the senators actually had brought in the 3 major cell phone company presidents, and he asked them publicly, he said, how much money have you put into research into the safety of this for the general population? And they all looked at each other. They said, I don't know of any study that has been done.
No. They fudged a bit, didn't they? But they finally had to admit, no, we've done nothing. Okay, we're going to tell you about a range of products shortly, folks. Let me just repeat what I keep saying. We are going to do questions and interaction, and, you know, some of you can come on and speak to us. But I want to leave it to the end. Let's get through what we're doing. And then when young Rob goes off to the chat line where he can answer your questions, online questions, we'll continue. John and I will continue fielding questions for the rest of the presentation, for the rest of the evening, really. Yeah. Anyway, tell us about this product range. You can, I think a lot of people know you can do funny things on your phone that will help, but there's more to it than that, isn't there? We saw Personal Flow. That was the one that Professor Anna had. Yeah. Anyways, explain these, please.
Yeah. So, this Personal Flow one is designed to carry around on your person. Goes in your pocket, purse, backpack, and it's your personal mobile protection.
If you're on an airplane, and which all have Wi-Fi now. Yeah. So these things will protect you while you're flying around, while you're moving around, while you're driving around.
This one right here, the Screen Flow, which is mentioned there on the screen for tablets and computers, is you can see it's got a little stand.
Oh, a little totem. Yeah, that's the one with the red nail varnish, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you put that in, and we always keep this by our screen that we're using. We can move it around between different screens. So you go watch TV, you can put it on there. I know of people that have even taped them to the back of their TV so that they can't lose them.
Good idea.
Yeah, exactly. You just tape them on, stick them to the back of your computer monitor. You've got protection from these screens that we are constantly exposed from. Of course, there's the mobiles. You can see the little mobile Flow on the back of my phone here.
Yeah, it's like a little Scrabble tile, isn't it?
Yeah.
back in the back of the mind.
Yeah, they might even be a little smaller than a Scrabble tile, but they've got a bit of thickness to them. They're about a centimeter thick, and that's how they fit the technology in there to create that little antenna.
Right.
And these mobile Flowws, we keep them on the back of our phones, and they actually transfer between phones. So if you were to, John's has been through 4 or 5 phones by now.
5 phones anyway.
The stick on them doesn't go away.
And
then, of course, there's
question, is there any problem? Can you stick these onto your cell phone case?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So
I've done them on both.
A case is not a detriment. You have a case, then you stick it outside on the case.
Yeah.
Still
I've
works.
got mine like where my antenna is on
Yeah.
the case.
Okay, just checking. That was an obvious question. Yeah, carry on.
And there's the home flow system, which I think is cut off a bit on the PowerPoint there because of the zoom. But that's the one in the corner there with the 5 pieces.
Oh, we'll look at that in a minute anyway.
Yeah.
The one that looks like it's got 2 toilet plungers on it, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll come to that in a minute anyway. Let's take a, oops, hang on. Sometimes it will do what I ask it, and then sometimes it won't. I can't find my cursor. Where the hell is it? This is nuts. I might have to click it on something. Oh, no, seriously, guys, I can't find my cursor.
Oh, there it is. You just found it.
Yes, accidentally. But anyway, let's back up. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Anyway, I've got the actual cursor keys going. All right, there you go. So this is the mobile one. Well, we've discussed that at length, haven't we? We'll go on to the next one. Obviously, this will be of great concern to parents because, we can live without it, or we hold it at arm's length, or we just say, let the damn thing ring. But kids are on it hour after hour after hour, and this is got to be a concern.
It's their new world.
Well, they sleep with it.
Yeah.
People put it under their pillow as an alarm.
Yeah, terrible. Oh, and you mentioned the screen. Well, we can't see it. Is that chopped as well?
It looks like it's been cut off as well.
Oh, damn. I'm sorry. That's my mishandling of...
That's this guy.
We had it all in view before, so... Anyway, so place it within 10 centimeters? What's that in real money? About 6 inches, isn't it? Bit less than 6 inches.
Yeah.
And that's the personal one.
Yeah, and that one, you can carry it on your person. There's something I'd like to mention about this one here, because it might be a point of interest of people that get to the site. There's actually 2 sizes of personal Floww. There's a medium and a small. And they developed this because they found that the fields generated with the medium in high EMF areas actually caused women to get headaches. So they developed the small one that doesn't do that for women and children.
So it doesn't transmute as much energy, or what's the word? Whatever the word is. Modulate. So they don't modulate so much energy.
Yeah, so they definitely say women and children should go with the small, and men should go with the medium. It's just a noteworthy.
More voluminous.
Right. Okay. All right, come on, moving on, because a lot of folks, they've committed at least an hour and a quarter to us, but may not have unlimited time. I mean, here's our typical home now, sprayed with Wi-Fi radiation everywhere, and you've rightly put up some overhead electric pylons. I don't know if you've ever tried this experiment, guys, but these fluorescent tubes you can get. If you walk outside on a dark night, if you stand within 100 meters of one of these overhead, high power, high tension cables, just hold up the fluorescent tube, it will begin to glow. There is so much, this is what Tesla taught us, right? There's so much energy field spraying around these high tension wires overhead, it will actually light up a fluorescent light tube 100 meters away. So if you're anywhere near one of these things with your house, and a lot of people are, gosh, bad news. But anyway, there is an answer to the whole home. This is what I call the toilet plungers. It's just a joke. They're actually wooden stands, folks. Don't take my twisted sense of humor too much to heart. But what do we do with these? Like 5 parts. How's this going to add up to 10,000 square feet of protection?
They protect the electrical system that comes into the house. There's one that goes on that. The heating system as well. Some people are heated with water, others are electrically heated, so on and so forth. So each one of these little devices actually protects you from the electrical circulating within the wires circulating within your house create electromagnetic fields. So they protect you against those fields as well. Now, the two toilet plungers, as you call them, one will go to the lower part, what we call a geoflow, and the other one will go to the highest part of your house. And together, they'll actually create like a bubble around your house for up to 10,000 square feet.
Depending on the size of your house, right?
Yeah.
So, it's just...
There aren't many people have a 10,000 foot house or more.
So you get a bigger bubble, that's all.
But those that have one could probably afford to buy 2 sets, so it's not an issue. Oh, yeah, we're nearly finished, but back to Anne. So she bought a Floww, and that's what solved it for her then, was it? I mean, she couldn't go and live in New Zealand, but living in New York.
No, she couldn't go live in New Zealand. Yeah, exactly. So she got the personal Floww to try, and she didn't take long. It was about 7 days, and almost all of her swelling was gone. And after that point, she got the whole system. She wanted to protect her home. I think she even brought them for her grandchildren, children. You name it.
Yeah. They're not that expensive. If you've got some money and you're looking after people or you care, get a few. Anyway, let's do some testimonials now. I always say, folks, testimonials are not science, but it's nice to know some people get good results. And your question is, will you get good results? Well, there is a money back guarantee. I wouldn't worry about that. But for lots of people, it's who've in real difficulties. Nothing works. Every kind of good help and health care isn't working. It could be this, and if it is, there is some protection. Yeah. Here's another one. Look, this is now Sandra. That's Nevada. I wonder if she's just round the corner. I'm here in Las Vegas right now. So I mean, fibromyalgia, fatigue and aches and pains, that's basically what fibromyalgia is, isn't it? And for a lot of people, it is electrical hypersensitivity. Here's a British story. Graham. Come on, one of you guys.
I think
sounds like a race car driver.
For Graham, it was a concern about children on phones, and persistently sitting around a table, all texting, playing games on their phones, and they had attention issues, sleeping problems, and Graham found that the mobile Floww was a worthwhile something to try, because then they're, as you say, they're not very expensive. So we got them each a little Christmas present, which I'm sure they didn't appreciate, because kids never appreciate that sort of thing. Got them set up on their phones, and he reported back that essentially they're sleeping better and even starting to do better in school. Less complaints about these attention.
So very worthwhile for ADHD families, And autism spectrum, do we have any of those? I mean, they're very overlapping anyway, as we know.
Yeah.
And this is Sarah from California.
Yeah, Sarah, chronic pain for years. This is the most common thing, right? Chronic pain that won't be resolved by other sources. EMFs. I mean, as we said, 15% of the population suffers from electromagnetic hypersensitivity. So if you are in pain and you're not getting results from other things, it's definitely something to think.
You want to think about this.
And for Sarah, she got the home Floww on the recommendation of a friend, I believe. And it was just pain levels dropped substantially. Sleep has improved. It's like protecting your home, giving yourself a safe place to be, right?
Yeah. Okay, so how much is it going to cost is a question in everybody's mind. Well, the mobile look is less than $46.
Yeah.
Just about $46 plus shipping and handling. Now, the personal Floww, you said there are large and small sizes. Is that the cost of the bigger one?
Yeah, they're both the same price.
Oh, the same price. They're just, so the same amount of technology packed in it then. Even the home, to be able to protect the whole home for just like $1,200, just over $1,200, that's pretty stunning anyway. So if you decide you want one of these, any one of these, or there are sets, aren't there? No, we should say that. You can have a personal set, so you get a screen Floww, a mobile Floww, and a personal Floww. That's for you to look after yourself. And then the home Floww is a system, of course. There are offerings, aren't there, where somebody can buy a home Floww and then a personal set. And then if they want to buy it for other people in the home or family, you can let them have that at a you know, an increasing discount rate depending on how many they want to order. Yeah.
Yeah,
To be honest, I don't think you need to discount them really. You know, if somebody wants 5 mobile Flowws, it's not going to break the bank, is it?
no, and it's worth noting as well that I know due to yearly increases, Floww are increasing their prices.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, so I mean that happens. It's inevitable. So we got until the end of the month. We got a few days at least, anyway, when people can go out and grab one. Yeah,
I think we need to move pretty quickly because of announcements of blockage.
Yeah.
From Europe to America, that sort of
thing. Yeah, they're cancelling flights. They might cancel shipping even. Anyway, this is where you go, folks, to learn more. It's the usual Sana shop. This is John, Laurie, and Rob's business site. It's called The Sana Shop, and it doesn't matter if you put capital letters in that or not. I'm pointing down the bottom of the screen. Can you all see that?
I actually can't see it, Keith.
Oh, crap. Oh, dear.
Want to type it on another slide?
Well, let me describe it, and then the final slide. I know it's dead in the middle because I put it.
People can see it.
Put it there. Oh, right. So it's thesanashop.com/EMF. That's an easy one, but don't forget capital letters. Everything after the .com is case sensitive. So you put / capital E, capital M, capital F, and then you'll find all these things that we're talking about. We don't need to go through all that spiel just now. I asked these guys to be straightforward about what the guarantee was, and the one that you stick to your phone, they're not going to take back. That's logical, I think. But anything else, you get your money back, minus what's called a restocking fee, because it won't be sellable to any. Well, it will be sellable to somebody else, but not sold as new. Now, when you go to this, I want to call your attention to something here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but look up at the top right. There's a little button that says leave a message. If you click on that, then this whole panel here that says chat, welcome to live chat. Rob will be there to answer your questions. You type him in and he'll type the answer and so on. And if you decide to go ahead, he'll tell you what to do.
It looks like I got a heavy load, so I suppose I better take my leave and go start helping people out.
Yeah, well, thanks for talking with us, Rob. And I'll talk to you tomorrow anyway, as you know. Yeah. So great, and well done on preparing these slides that I slightly spoiled by enlarging too much in the wrong direction. Come on, take center stage, John. So, I mean, let's go to the, I'm going to leave, this is the kind of last slide. And I'm going to leave this up while we take questions. So it's kind of a shop. That's where you go to get one of these things. I'll get the whole suite and sets. It's up to you what you get. But it's thesanashop.com/EMF in uppercase letters. John, are you ready? Gosh, there's 36 in chat. I don't know how many in Q. Oh, another 16 in Q&A. We're going to be here a while, brother. Are you all set? Let's make a start with the Q&As, just to start somewhere. We're not. Oh, hang on. Oh, it's here. Sorry, I couldn't. Can you see that in the middle? Is it covering up the link? No.
I can see you're viewing Keith's got movie screen, view the options. I can see the whole thing.
It's just that the Q&A panel opened up right in front of that slide. Right. All right, so let's just take them as they come. We'll do our best, folks. Some people are very clever at coming up with really weird questions that we just don't know, but we will undertake to find out.